it's interesting to know that one of the 4 borders approved to be reopened by President Muhammadu Buhari has finally opened its doors. The Nigerian Customs Service yesterday reopened the Ilela border in Sokoto State. The Customs Area Controller in charge of the Sokoto Zamfara Command, Mr. Abdul Hamid Maji, urges residents in the community to support security agencies in the effort to stop banditry and smuggling in the area. The community borders, Koni community in Niger Republic, and officials of neighboring Niger Republic and their traditional rulers were present at that ceremony. Let's take a listen.
We are here today based on the presidential pronouncement that the border is open, to tell you that Nigerian Customs Service has presented, based on the Federal Government Republic, operational guidelines for the opening of the border. The import and export guidelines still remain the same. There are no changes about it. If we go back to our history before what happened, the purpose of the closure of border was abuse of protocols. So now the border is open. What is expected of us is compliance with government rules and regulations. There are items we all know that are prohibited. Those items still remain prohibited.
And news just in, U.S. lawmakers have certified Joe Biden's election victory hours after Trump supporters stormed the Capitol in an attack that saw 4 people die. Really, really
Congratulations
sad.
to
Congratulations, but sad that people had to die for.
Well, I just wonder.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the Nigeria Customs Service says it's generated a higher sum of 1.56 trillion naira in 2020 against the 1.38 trillion naira target set for the year, despite the negative economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a statement released yesterday, the Controller General of Customs, Colonel Hamid Ibrahim Ali, says before the closure of the country's borders on August the 20th, 2019, revenue generation was between 4 to 5 billion naira. But now the NCS generates between 5 to 9 billion naira daily. He also mentions that diplomatic engagements that took place during the partial land border closure yielded many positive results, including commitments to comply with the ECOWAS protocol on transit.
And holders of the national identification number are now required to pay 15,000 naira to correct their dates of birth on the database of the National Identity Management Commission. The NIMC Regional Coordinator Fumi Opesonwu says NIN holders are also required to pay a processing fee of 5,000 naira for card renewal or card replacement, as well as an address modification fee of 500 naira. The NIMC official noted that the fees are payable to the Treasury single account of the federal government.
I guess the NIN saga.
Just wondering where this whole thing is going to get to.
And scheduled domestic operators in Nigeria have received a 3 billion naira with 5% deduction for the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Nigeria Space Management Agency, and Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, following the approval of the 5 billion naira COVID palliative the federal government pledged to the sector. The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria got 75 million naira. The Nigerian Management Agency and Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority received 37.5 million naira each from the deductions. And non-scheduled operators also received a total amount of 1 billion naira with a 950 million naira deduction for the 3 aviation agencies. According to a document from the Aviation Ministry group handling companies, the National Association of Travel Agencies, aviation fuel marketers, as well as airport car hire services received a share of the funds.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the global oil market. Prices were steady this morning after supporters of President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol, with investors focusing on the likelihood of tighter supplies after Saudi Arabia unilaterally agreed to cut output. Brent crude was up 8 cents at $54.38 a barrel after gaining 1.3% overnight. U.S. West Texas Intermediate gained 11 cents to $50.74, having slipped earlier in the Asian session. The contract rose 1.4% on Wednesday. Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest oil exporter, said it would voluntarily cut 1 million barrels per day of output in February and March after OPEC Plus, which groups the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and other producers, including Russia, met earlier this week.
Yeah, so PIB, the Petroleum Industry Bill 2020 appears to be gaining traction after more than 20 years. It will, upon enactment, completely overhaul the regulatory and fiscal framework guiding Nigeria's oil and gas industry. As the Senate and the House of Representatives will be conducting public hearings in the bill between the 25th and 28th of this month, the general expectation is that the bill will be enacted into law in the first quarter of 2021. However, there are various issues that have emanated from the draft bill, and that will be our conversation with Adewale Ajayi, partner and head tax, energy and natural resources, KPMG Nigeria, in a moment.
Do stay with us.
Stay with us.
Well, Adewale Ajayi, partner and head tax, energy and natural resources, KPMG Nigeria, joins us now. Good morning and happy new year to you, Adewale. Thank you for joining us on the program. Hello, good morning, Mr. Adewale. I guess it's one of those days you know, technology can really be so disappointing here. Okay, what is it?
I think he should be able to hear us now. Let's
Mr. Adewale, good morning.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, great.
Yes, I
Good
can.
morning and Happy New Year is one of those things. Right, we're talking about the PIB. Of course, PIB issue has been on for more than 20 years. The previous National Assembly could not conclude deliberation. Now it is before the current Assembly. Why is it taking such a long time to pass this bill? And of course, are you optimistic that the bill will be passed in the life of this Assembly?
Thank you so much for that. Apologies for the age. What I can say is that this time around, there is traction on the PIB, and I'm optimistic that the bill will be passed by the first quarter of 2021. I know that we've had some experiences in the past, and people are still pessimistic whether it will be passed. But I am very optimistic that it will be passed, given what we've seen in the present, what the government is doing now. So what has delayed the bill? The very first PIB was presented in 2008, and there have been a lot of issues. One of those issues is the fact that there was no ownership. And of course, there was also the issue of misalignment between the National Assembly and the Executive. And then you also still have the issues of the erosion of power of the Minister and the President. Those are the issues that caused the delay. But I think those issues have been resolved now, and so I'm optimistic that by the first quarter of 2021, at least going by what the Speaker also has said, that it will be passed into law.
Views from different stakeholders on the PIB, and looking at the PIB 2020, a lot of questions come to mind. For instance, will the PIB promote and enhance competitiveness of Nigeria's oil and gas fiscal regime? Will it transform the NNPC into an efficient, profitable company comparable to Saudi Aramco and Petronas and a host of others? And what part would the bill what part of the bill do you have reservations about, and how do you think these can be resolved?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think getting to where we are now is a very good start. This is what we've been waiting for, and we can always tweak the bill as we go along. So, in terms of the provisions of the bill, I think there are certain things that the government has done that really gladden the heart of operators. And of course, for operators, like Oliver Twist, you always demand, more. All right. So, but let me look at in terms of the benefits of what we're seeing in the bill. I think one good thing about the bill is the issue of the voluntary, conversion that the bill, has provided for. In other words, operators are not forced, to join, or to be able to take advantage of the provisions of the bill. They can still continue, with the current provision of the petroleum profit tax or the deep offshore bill. That is one. And the second thing that is also very interesting is the fact that they're going to be emphasizing mandatory relinquishment of oil blocks. One of the problems we've had in the past is that even though we have provision in the Petroleum Act that says that operators must mandatorily relinquish their oil block when they're converting from a prospecting lease to a mining lease, what we've seen, what we've done, or what the regulators have done, is that they've given the operators the ability to actually retain the 50% portion of the lease that they're supposed to convert simply by paying $500,000 and also paying the signature bonus. That is going to be thing of the past because of the drill or drop provision that you have and the mandatory relinquishment. And of course, it is not compulsory. The operators have to decide whether they will pass the bill or not. Right now, but in terms of some of the areas where we have reservation or where the operators have reservation, one area, of course, has to do with, yes, there is a provision in the law for mandatory relinquishment. From past experience, do we have the willpower to be able to enforce that, right? Because we know that in the current act, there's a provision, for that mandatory relinquishment. But we've seen instances of discretionary allocation. And so that is one of the areas that people will be looking forward to see what will happen. And the other issue, of course, also has to do with the continuing relevance of the NDDC, Nigeria Data Development Commission, because now operators are supposed to set up a trust fund, for the host communities. So why do you still need to keep the NDDC? And now we've seen that NDDC has been in the news in recent times for the wrong reasons. So why do we still need the NDDC? Just going to be a duplication, of what the Petroleum Host Community Fund will be doing. And of course, the other issue also has to do with the remediation fund. Every operator is going to set up a decommissioning fund. Why do you still need to set up a fund for remediation for the environment? So those are areas that I have reservations about. Now, in terms of the fiscal...
Mr. Adewale, just hold your thoughts there. We will come back to you in a moment. We'll take a quick break and then we'll continue with this conversation. Welcome back. Still talking PIB 2020, and we still have Adewale Ajayi, partner and head tax, energy and natural resources, KPMG Nigeria. Thank you very much, sir, for staying tuned there. All right. So with the crash of oil price and the focus on renewable energy, especially in the advanced economies, do you think investors will still be keen in investing in oil exploration?
Yes, I still think so. I know that climate change is one of the biggest challenges facing the oil industry. But if you've seen what has been happening in the past couple of months, the oil price has been going up. Now, currently, the Brent is about $54 a barrel, and the Western Texas Intermediate and OPEC basket is about $51 per barrel. So what that shows is that people still have faith, are still taking bets in the oil industry. Of course, I'm aware of the fact that some countries in Europe and developing countries have already said that they're going to ban fossil power fuel by 2030, and that they're going to have a net zero carbon emission by 2050. But the fact of the matter is that everybody still expects that demand for oil will still continue to grow, at least for the next 20 to 30 years. And that is the reasons why we really need to have the PIB passed now, so that we can take advantage, of that, because the oil is of no use to us as long as it is in the ground. We need to get it up and sell. So I'm very optimistic that despite all the issues of climate change, and of course, I'm also aware of the fact that the Biden government is going to focus on renewables, right? And you have a lot of oil companies also that are making investment in renewables. But at the end of the day, I think we might need to separate oil from gas, right? So, I mean, gas is still going to be a clean energy that people are going to be investing on. But as far as oil is concerned, the major issue, of course, has to do with the current lockdown posed by as a result of COVID-19. But I still believe that for the next 20 to 30 years, the oil industry will still be relevant. And that is why we're seeing an increase in the price. Interestingly, investment bankers, are much more bullish about the oil industry than oil traders. I mean, I've just seen a report that Citibank did and Goldman Sachs, and they expect the oil price will be between $60 and $65 in 2021, while the oil traders are looking at between $50 and $55. So the answer to your question is yes, the oil industry will still continue to be relevant despite the challenge posed by climate change.
Jai, so assuming the bill is not passed, what does Nigeria stand to lose?
If the bill is not passed, we're going to lose a lot of things. One of the things that the government did was to try and look at how competitive our fiscal regime is, right? And what we found out is that out of about 757 world fiscal systems, Nigeria ranks 748. What that means is that Nigerian fiscal regime is not competitive. And one of the factors that will drive investment, of course, is tax. So obviously, people will not be able to come to Nigeria to invest. When you look at what is happening in Africa now, a lot of investors are taking bets on Namibia, Mozambique, and Botswana. Those are three areas. And for us to be able to attract investment, we need to have an attractive fiscal regime. That's one. The number two is the fact that there's been lack of clarity, when it comes to the regulatory and fiscal regime. And that's also affected the flow of investment. I won't say that is the biggest challenge affecting the flow of investment into Nigeria because of the non-passage of the PIB, which some people have wrongly said. I think it's just because of the fact that the oil price has been going down. But now that the oil price has been rebounding, I think people will still make investment. But I will say to you, it is in our interest to pass the PIB because at the end of the day, oil being in the ground is of no use to us, right? If people are focusing on renewable, and because of climate change in the next 30, 20 years, and people are not looking at oil. So what are you going to do with the oil? So the oil is as good as useless. So I think it's in our interest to ensure that we pass the PIB, as quickly as we can. And I'm extremely optimistic based on what we've seen that bill will be passed for March of 2021.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jai. Well, it's an ongoing conversation, and be sure I'm going to invite you again on this show. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And guess what? Domestic commodities prices drop after the New Year's celebrations. Well, Dumebi Iyeke of Financial Derivatives Company joins us next in a moment. Okay, we're being joined by Dumebi Iyeke, research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Hello, Dumebi. Good morning. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Well, you did your research and you found out that prices of rice, tomato, pepper, onion have dropped after the New Year celebration. I remember what it was like just before we went on that holiday.
When onions was the goal.
Absolutely. So what were the major drivers of this current price?
For each commodity, there's specific reasons as to why their prices went down. But generally, we've seen that in January, like after the New Year celebration, after the Christmas holidays, when prices usually are higher, there is that significant drop, in domestic commodities prices. And one of the major reasons this year that a lot of traders, gave is the significant decline in consumer demand. You know, during the festive period, there was that reason, and right now, it's still the same thing. I mean, when we went to the market for the survey, it was relatively dry. You know, not a lot of people, as, you know, would have it in the market. But for a commodity like onions, this is the harvest season for onions, so that's why there's ample supply of onions in the market, and the price is actually declining. I mean, yesterday I wanted to buy some onions, and the man was like, "Oh, the price of onions don't come down, no, it don't come down." I'm like, "Oh, that's good news for everyone, you know."
Yes.
And also for tomatoes as well. This is also the time where we're going to be seeing a lot of tomatoes in the market. I mean, the price of tomatoes has gone down for a basket from about 15,000. That's what it was around December, to 7,000 naira. Right now, so you can freely enjoy a big pot of jollof rice, you know,
I guess,
without breaking the bank.
I'll be making
I'll have to check
a lot
out
of stew. So looking at relatively price elastic products.
Yes.
So palm oil, for instance, has gone up. What is the reason for the price increase?
A major reason that, you know, because we had to engage the traders. Palm oil is something that most of us, some people even use it as an alternative to, you know, granite oil or vegetable oil. So hearing that the price of one very cheap commodity is now high, we had to ask them. So one of the reasons that they gave is that right now it's not so much in season. And another reason is the fact that they're still facing a lot of a high increase in their logistics costs, bringing it from the east to Lagos State, because a lot of people still prefer the palm oil from the east. So bringing it to Lagos, there is that constraint of high logistics. So that's one of the reasons. Those are some of the reasons why the price of palm oil right now is higher than what it was at, you know, this time last year.
Now, it's interesting to know that Nigeria happens to be the 5th largest palm oil producer, yet we are, you know, as a leading exporter, you know, yet we are net import, very high in importation of this same commodity. Where have we gotten it all wrong?
I mean, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind whenever we're asked, or where did Nigeria get it wrong, especially for agricultural commodities, not just only palm oil, is the high dependence on oil. I was still reading an article yesterday. There was an interview with one of the former ambassadors for Nigeria with the United States, and you know, they asked him this a similar question to this, and you know, like I thought about, and like he rightly said, it was generally the dependence on oil. The oil boom, as much as it did us a lot of good in terms of revenue, it's because
it also did us a lot of harm.
Yes, exactly, because we now moved, you know, away from agriculture, from industry to, you know, just oil. And while I was thinking about that, while reading that article, I was also thinking about the fact that imagine if we didn't, you know, depend so much on oil. Where would our agricultural sector have been? Where would our manufacturing sector have been? I mean, we're talking about ample years there would have been, you know, right now we're talking about an increase in, you know, the technology. There'll be high mechanized farming. Farmers will be incentivized. People like myself and so many people would be interested, you know, in being part of the agricultural sector. The value chain would have increased so much, because right now we're not only talking about the raw materials or from the farm, we're also talking about finished products. There have been intensified, you know, efforts in the value chain. So as much as so basically, the answer to that question is the high dependence, you know, on oil, and just, you know, raises our eyebrows to the fact that we have to do more in those two, you know, sectors.
Okay, so we've been talking diversification for a while now. So
Yes.
Does it have potential to be a foreign exchange earner for Nigeria?
The big answer to that would be, let's just take a cue from Malaysia.
Right.
So the answer is yes. It is.
And particularly now that someone like you, young to maybe, I mean, having this idea of going into agriculture,
I mean,
if there's room for that,
of course,
so the government is trying to provide room and trying to say, look, I want the young ones to get into, you know, agriculture.
Exactly.
What sort of sentiment, or rather, what sort of incentive, you know, would someone like you want to see in this sector to really give you a boost to be part of what is happening in this sector, to grow the value chain there?
Definitely, it will be capital. There's really no one that wants to start a business, especially in agri, because agri is not like a make-up business or something. I mean, this requires a lot of investment. You're talking about buying a land. You're talking about cultivating the land. You're talking about research and development. You're talking about funds. You're going to have farmers. I won't be tilling the soil.
No, you have to
Even if I will till the soil, I mean, I won't do that every single time, you know. So all of that has to be put in place. So once young people are aware that such programs have been put in place, and the bottlenecks to get the funds are very well addressed, I mean, you would see an increase in that, and a lot of people would be interested, to participate in it. Yeah.
So another burning economic issue is the controversy about the electricity tariff hike. You tagged it inflation clawback versus tariff review. Could you expatiate on that and what you're trying to say?
First off, there are two issues. There is the cost-reflective electricity tariff hike, and there is the consumer. So the tariff hike in itself, there was the news on media that, there was an additional hike, but the NIRC came out to clarify that there was no, additional tariff hike. But regardless of it, there is a tariff hike that people, there is that tariff hike that has already, taking place. People are experiencing higher electricity, higher electricity costs. So the consumer on the other end, who is not having so much, because your income is relatively not increasing, so meaning that there is still that cut in your consumer disposable income. You can't buy as much as you would have, and now your cost of electricity has increased. Considering the fact that apart from their cost of electricity increasing, the power supply is also not so. There are still power shortages. Like a lot of people, or most people, are still not able to say that, oh, I have 24 hours, stable light, or an entire month of stable power supply.
Or even having a meter.
Exactly. So people still don't have, their meters. A lot of people are still on estimated billing. So regardless of it, there is still that cost-effective electricity tariff hike that people are experiencing, and the truth of the matter is that their income is not increasing, so their disposable income relatively has declined, and they're also experiencing there is the PMS hike as well. There is the fact that even though now the food prices have relatively come down, people were experiencing high food prices. So the consumer is being battered left, right, center generally. So there is that. So those are the issues, and that was what we meant, because that definitely will feed into inflation figures and all of that.
Well, Dumavi, let's just hope we eventually get it right in this power sector, because I mean we've been on it over and over again.
We need to find ways to increase our income to keep up.
All right, thank you very much, Dumavi. It's always a pleasure,
Thank you so
talking
much.
to you, and have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, let's look at Wednesday's trading at the equities market. Let's talk to Charles Fakruga, a stockbroker there. Good morning, Mr. Fakruga. Thank you very much for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you. Well, the market reversed Tuesday's losses yesterday. How would you describe what happened in the market?
Yes, this is the first trading week for the year, and the market is still a little bit quiet. We are seeing speculators in the market, those who want to take advantage of this little price increase and make some return. The real investors are still putting their hearts together to see how they can come back to the market. But we believe that the brokers, the traders are also talking to their investors, to their clients, to see how they can position themselves, have a strategy for the 2021.
Now, investors are actually looking forward to companies' fourth quarter and full year results, and of course dividend payout. For you as a trader, what do you expect of the earnings?
Of course, we are going to be seeing a bullish run, because the dividend announcement will be made, and some of these returns yields will be better than what is still prevailing in fixed income another instrument. So we'll still see more and more investors positioning themselves to prepare so that they can take advantage of these returns that will be sent to the market by these quoted companies.
The demutualization of the stock exchange seems to have kicked off with the announcement of chief executives for emerging entities. What is the take of traders in the market like you?
Yes, that decision, that announcement did not come as a surprise. We've been expecting it. Demutualization has come to stay. And with this announcement, the holding company and the subsidiaries that came out with a crop of individuals that have been appointed to run these companies. These are people that have the capacity. They will take the market to the next level. So the market is happy. The investors are prepared. Operators are also prepared, even regulators. So it's going to be a very innovative, creative, and a fruitful 2021 with demutualization. We'll see the market being taken to the next level.
Mr. Fakruga, a new trading day has just started. What is it looking like this morning?
Well, the market is still quiet. We are seeing orders are being sent to the market. Like I said, investors, operators are being very cautious. They are looking at the market and they are going to be very strategic. But at the same time, I see the market closing slightly bullish at the end of today's trading.
We hope that happens eventually. Thank you very much, Mr. Fakruga.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take another quick break, and when we come back, we do an opening call to London. To stay with us. Well, it's a beautiful Thursday morning in London. Well, Laddie, I guess it would be nice to know what's happening out there.
Exactly, and that's why we have Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Juliana joins us this morning. Hello, Juliana.
Good morning, Laddie. Good morning,
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so shares in London closed at their highest level since late February, and investors ignored record COVID-19 deaths and warnings from a veteran city guru that an epic bubble of Wall Street crash proportions was bound to burst. How has the markets opened this morning? Is it still looking sunny?
Unfortunately, we're in London in January, so it's not looking sunny. But look, the FTSE is off to a flying start. It's the 7th day of 2021. And as you said, the FTSE 100, well, the FTSE All-Share is reaching record proportions. In fact, it opened 30 points higher this morning, inching towards that 7,000 mark, and we haven't seen that 7,000 point mark since February last year, pre-COVID-19 pandemic. So I think investors are really hoping that 2021 could be a good year. Not possible to talk about the markets without talking about those truly awful, horrific scenes that we saw in Washington play out yesterday. Believe it or not, America obviously is the world's largest economy, the beacon of democracy for the free world. But because we had those two senators elected in Georgia, President-elect Joe Biden now has control over the Senate. This is a significant a story, and it's going to impact how the US is going to play out over the next 4 years, particularly in terms of stimulus. And we are expecting now money to be pumped back into the American economy, which is going to affect the rest of the world. Traders are really excited about that, and that is one of the reasons why the FTSE All-Share is up much higher. There are still, I believe, 14 or so days until the inauguration. So much is going to take place before then, perhaps even the outing of President Donald Trump. So we'll be keeping our eye on that because, again, that does have a major effect on what happens in the FTSE.
I guess we'll see how things play out. In other news, Britain's competition watchdog has launched an investigation into the £29.5 billion takeover of the UK-based chip designer, ARM, by the US company NVIDIA. What are the key issues in this deal? Is there a possibility they may have breached UK competition rules?
Possibly, possibly not. It's a big story, and we did speak about it on this programme, actually, when the news broke last year. Now, ARM Holding is a significant blue chip, well, a significant chip company. They supply and they design chips for smartphones, computers, tablets, everything that we basically use. And some of their clients include Apple and Samsung. Now, ARM Holding was purchased by Japan's SoftBank in 2016 for $32 billion, but it maintained its headquarters here in the UK. I believe they've got about 6,500 staff across the world. 3,000 of them are based here. A massive, massive institution here in the UK. But NVIDIA, they put out their intentions to purchase the institution last year. As soon as that was announced, alarm bells started ringing, no less than from Herman Hauser. He's the co-founder of ARM Holding, and he wrote to the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Select Committee, basically saying, do not authorise this deal, that once you do that, Britain basically have no global presence in terms of technology, and this company will morph into some of these tech giants like Google and Apple that the world is scared of and are overtaking tech e-commerce. And so that was some of the issues that they have. This has also been replicated by opposition lawmakers in the House of Commons. They also don't believe the British government should allow this deal to go ahead. So now the Competition and Markets Authority have stepped in. They have asked stakeholders from both sides to submit their views on this contentious deal. And they basically want NVIDIA to confirm that the headquarters will still be based in Cambridge, and that those 3,000 jobs will still be retained in the UK. There is actually a statement briefly that I'll mention from Andrea Koskeli. She's the chief exec at the CMA, saying the chip technology industry is worth billions of pounds and is critical to many of the products that we use mostly in our everyday lives. We will work closely with our competition authorities around the world to carefully consider the impact of the deal. A formal investigation isn't due to take place until much later on in the year.
Interesting. And thousands of British gas engineers and call center workers plan to down tools from today as part of a national 5-day strike. What is their grounds?
Oh, there are so many. This is an issue that union bosses have had with Centrica. Centrica is the parent company of British Gas. In the summer last year, they announced that they will be cutting 5,000 jobs. Not really due to the pandemic, but just due to the change in face of energy supply. It's a very competitive, highly saturated industry now in the UK, and they needed to make some changes. Union bosses were not happy because after this announcement, they started bringing back a lot of staff in what they consider a fire and then rehire policy. So they were bringing back staff on less money, lower wages, but basically working more hours. They weren't happy about it. They did a ballot with union members last month, and overwhelmingly members agreed to this strike. I believe 89% agreed to it. So the strike starts today. It's going to be taking place for 5 days. Centrica insists that they have done everything to try and negotiate with the unions to avoid industrial action. The union bosses, they're not happy with Centrica's response. They basically say they are turning a great British institution, British Gas, into a cowboy contractor. So that strike is taking place today. Not great, especially for the elderly and the vulnerable and those who struggle to get heating anyway. But Centrica have put out an announcement saying that they have contingency plans, and so people should not worry that if your heater or your boiler breaks down, then they will have an engineer that can come out to support you.
I guess we'll see how that plays out. Thank you so much, Juliana. Thank you for your time, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, Juliana still has updates to give to us later in the day.
On.
But, you know, talking about that strike, the strike actually is one way someone can actually express his or her displeasure over something. So it's nothing bad, but let's see how that plays out. I'm sure Juliana will be able to update us on that.
And hopefully the people don't suffer too much. with this trend.
They won't. Okay, let's talk to Webby, fixed income dealer, FSDH Merchant Bank, to give us update on the fixed income market. Good morning, K.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So could you take us through the activities at your market yesterday?
Okay, the treasury market was predominantly bullish yesterday due to improved liquidity. We currently have over ₦1 trillion in the system, and that spurred demand for the need to long-dated securities in the market as local investors continue to seek attractive yields in the market. Consequently, we saw a slight decline in rates across the curve. On the bond segment, we saw a bit of mixed sentiment in the bond market yesterday. There was a profit-taking activity on the short end of the curve, especially on the 2024 and 2026 bonds, while we also saw increased demand for the long-dated bond maturities as local investors continue to seek maturities with highly attractive yields, especially on the 2034, 2035, and 2049 maturities. We expect the market to remain bullish today due to the robust liquidity in the system.
All right, thank you very much, K. We wish you a profitable trading day. Well, Ladi, K expects his market to remain bullish, and then we have quiet trading at the equities market.
Exactly.
You are a Bitcoin man.
Yeah.
I want you to follow that market.
I know,
because you have to.
$37,000
as of
today.
this morning.
Yes. And,
yeah, we'll follow up on that.
Exactly.
And, well, it's on that note that we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for joining us.